Let's now check audio balancing out, because would it really be a stream of mine if I didn't make it painfully obvious that I'm doing this by myself? Exactly. Gotta keep it feeling real. But it is very exciting because if you are familiar with my streams, we are in a new space. Crank it up just a touch. And so that's exciting. That's a cool thing that we get to live with. Yeah, so very exciting to have our first stream in the new place, in my new office. It's a hoot and a half. Okay, honestly, I'm just gonna turn off this AC because it's annoying. That's better. That's going to be better. Love it. Love it. So much better. So much better. Okay. Now if we can hear the music a little bit, just so we can have some vibes. Just so we can have a few vibes. Not too many. Just a pinch. There we go. I think that's fine. I think that's fine. Okay. Salutations, friends. My name is Brianna Sikion Bond, otherwise known as No Ordinary Scholar, and welcome to my quarter 2 wrap up. I apparently didn't edit this thing here, so ignore the middle section that says quarter 1 wrap up, because that's a lie. That is inaccurate. That's not true. This is quarter 2 wrap up. It's been still a pretty decent reading year for me. I've been having a lot of good luck with the books that I've been reading. This quarter 2 is where we really get into this situation where I've signed up for an absurd number of ARC books to read, review, and post about before they, like, ideally you want to get it out before the book is published. And to a degree, depending on, I guess the author, the publisher, etc., the pressure to for sure get those arcs done is varying. It varies. And I got a bunch of them all at once. I was not expecting to get all at all. So we're a little stressed. I'm going to be doing probably next week. I'm going to be doing my book mid-year freakout tag, and you will see how many arcs I still have to read. It's absolutely absurd, but we got in the second quarters where we actually got to start reading some of those, and they were good books. Like, I didn't pick just random books. I picked some really good books to read. Most of them, all of the novels I've done, or all but one of the novels, I have done a full stream on this channel, giving my review, talking about it, chit-chatting, and the like. Why does this light not want to... I know it's the window, but I don't have blinds that can deal with the window right now, so... it's fine. I'm just going to be in a shadow. I'm just going to be cast in the shadow. I'm going to be a mysterious character for today and the foreseeable future. It's fine. But yeah, so I've done full reviews of the vast majority of the novels, but we're still going to just give like a quick refresher on these, as well as I'm going to tell you about I've read a solid number of short stories. I actually read a lot more than I was expecting to read in this quarter. So we have my short stories that I need to tell you about, because I have not really... I've on social media mentioned them. Speaking of which, I am Firestorm2343. As you saw on that intro page, I'm Firestorm2343 on pretty much any social media site, including Threads. Check me out there. Should add that link, I guess, down below, but you can follow my Instagram to the Threads account. But yeah, I've talked a bit about some of the short stories that I've read, especially some of them I was chatting about for Pride Month. But we have those. I have a single DNF. I didn't get to any nonfiction, which is annoying because I have an arc that is nonfiction, and it's longer than I thought it was gonna be. I've been having issues. Pause. Here's the thing I've been having issues with these arcs is the page number advertised in places is not right. It's not right. It's not accurate. So the nonfiction thing, I was like, the nonfiction arc that I got said it was like 30 pages. I'm like, I can read 30 pages. I open my Kindle and it's like, oh, this is taking like 2 hours to read. What? No, I can read 30 pages in less than 2 hours. What's going on here? And the same thing happened with another book that I was supposed to have finished like a week and a half ago. The Sun and the Void. The thing said, like, I think it was either Storygraph or Goodreads said it was like just over 400 pages. And then I get to this book and I'm like, God, I feel almost as if I feel like I've read so much of this book that we should be getting close to a climax or anything. But my Kindle's telling me I'm only 30% of the way through. And so I check the other of the two apps and that one's like, oh, it's like just creeping up on 500 pages. One of the other ARC reviewers was like, nah, this book was like 600 pages. That one feels the most accurate. And the cognitive dissonance of, I feel like I've read at least a full book by now, and we are not at the climax. We're getting there, but we are not at the climax. The cognitive dissonance of that has been messing with my head, and it was like a brick wall. It's been a brick wall trying to continue with this book. So I'm going to be starting another arc and trying to read both of those at the same time, so that way hopefully I can get done with either of them anytime soon. We're struggling. We are behind. Like, not so behind that these books are going to be late, but behind enough that I'm probably not going to only be able to read Spanish books in August like I want, which means we're not requesting this many arcs ever again in my life. So help me God. That rant aside, we have a lot of arcs that I got in this quarter, and I actually started getting to a lot of them, and the arcs that I picked are books that I was excited for. These are books that I really want to read. Most of the arcs that I got were a part of the 5-star book draft, or at least I added them into the 5-star book draft. The only reason I didn't have them was because I was like, oh, I'll never get this book this year. And look at me now, a clown, a fool, Boo Boo the Fool. That is me. So let's get started with the novels here. Let's get started with the novels that we read this quarter. We've got 5. I guess with these I'll read like the full description. Maybe we'll see how much time that starts to eat away at. Granted, some of the short stories I'm barely even going to say the title of because they were so traumatizing that I want nothing more than to forget that they exist. So, you know, we've got range. We've got options on how to space out the time of this video. Okay, let's start with Luis Ortega's Survival Club, which I do think was actually my first book. These might actually be in order. These might be in order. I thought they weren't, but it does appear that they are. Okay. Luis Ortega's Survival Club. Description. Ariana Ruiz wants to be noticed, but as an autistic girl who never talks, she goes largely ignored by her peers, despite her bold fashion choices. So when cute, popular Louise starts to pay attention to her, Ari finally feels seen. Louise's attention soon turns to something more, and they have sex at a party. While Ari doesn't say no, she definitely didn't say yes. Before she has a chance to process what happened and decide if she even has the right to be mad at Louise, the rumor mill begins churning. Thanks, she's sure, to Louise's ex-girlfriend, Shawnee. Boys at school now see Ari as an easy target, someone who won't say no. Then Ari finds a mysterious note in her locker that eventually leads her to a group of students determined to expose Louise for the predator he is. To her surprise, she finds genuine friendship among the group, including her growing feelings for the very last girl she expected to fall for. But in order to take Louise down, she has to come to terms with the truth of what he did to her that night and risk everything to see justice done. I was not prepared for a book to be like truly like the first 20% of the book, I think is what it was. Like the first 20% of the book is like very close to just me in high school, me growing up kind of thing. I was not ready for that. I was not ready for a book to explicitly talk about a character having situational mutism, which is something your girl struggles with. We love it. We love it so much. And so I was just obsessed with this book. I can't in memory think of a book up until this point in which I was genuinely squealing as they were talking, as the romance in the book was blooming. I was squeeing like a child, and I loved it so much. I thought the writing was great, loved the characters, and we love a good I Am Spartacus scene, and this book had it, and it was fantastic. 10 out of 10. Loved this book. As you can see, I loved every single one of the books that I read. Next up was Healer the Water Monster. This was not an arc. Louise Ortega was an arc. This was not an arc, and I'm not gonna lie, I was a little stressed about about reading it and like stepping away from the arcs, all like the mountain of arcs I was drowning under to read this, but I'm glad I did because it was such a good book. Okay, so when Nathan goes to visit his grandma Nali at her mobile summer home on the Navajo reservation, he knows he's in for a pretty uneventful summer with no electricity or cell service. Still, he loves spending time with Nali and with his Uncle Jet, though it's clear when Jet arrives that he brings his problems with him. One night, while lost in the nearby desert, Nathan finds someone extraordinary, a holy being from the Navajo creation story, a water monster in need of help. Now Nathan must summon all his courage to save his new friend. With the help of other Navajo holy beings, Nathan is determined to save the water monster and to support Uncle Jet in healing through his own pain. Wasn't prepared for how emotional this book was going to be. I'm going to do... Because it's like, I'm very much at a point where I've just read too many good books. I can't pick like 10 favorite books for the end of the year. That's not going to work for me. We're going to do superlatives. And we have the option of either books that made me cry. But frankly, I feel like the list would be shorter if I was like books that didn't make me cry. Because oh my God, did this destroy me. This child has the world on his shoulders. And I just want him to have some peace. Nathan is exhausted. He is traumatized to hell and back. Like right after I finished that book, the sequel came out, and I hope they address Nathan's own trauma, because oh my God, is that child traumatized before the book even starts. And it's so good. It's so heartbreaking in every way, shape, and form. It's still really funny though. They're like still good, some good moments of levity in that book. But overall, the story, again, absolutely fantastic. The writing, amazing. I was blended reading this book, so I had the ebook and the audiobook. And the narrator, 10/10. Great job. Phenomenal job. Mama Water Monster, a little petty. Mama Water Monster is a little petty, if we're being honest. Watch my review of that book to know what I'm talking about. But like I feel like Mama Water Monster just was not feeling it like she said she was. Up next, Something More. This was another arc that I got. And another autistic book, which we love. We love the autistic reading year that I've been having. A 15-year-old Palestinian Canadian girl is diagnosed as autistic just weeks before starting high school. Determined to make a fresh start, she creates a list of goals which range from acquiring 2 distinct eyebrows to getting a magical first kiss and landing a spot in the school play. but she gets more than what she bargained for when two very different boys steal her heart, forcing her to go off script. This book almost killed me. I shit you not. I like, when I first started this book, I was eating my lunch at work and I was just reading, and I almost choked to death because it is so funny. This book is so incredibly funny. I was in tears laughing at this narration, at like the things Jesse was saying and thinking. It was just so good. I also really like the kinds of dynamics that we got with the two boys that were her love interests. I think those were some really, really interesting ways of going about, like, the one that I don't like. I didn't like him, but it was still like not a villainous, oh, he's just a wholly shitty human being. You can see how it's just, he's a kid who's like doesn't know what to do. He doesn't know how, like, he doesn't know what he wants. He doesn't know how to go about his like feelings, but you still see us acknowledge how that impacts Jesse. And then you also have the other guy that's like head over heels in love with her, but what she wants is more important. What she wants is what he needs to focus on, and he treats that as the most important. So he will help her go after the guy that she wants because, you know, he respects that what she wants is what she wants. And I really appreciate seeing that kind of dynamic and seeing those like different portrayals of boys in this book. Okay. Up next, another absolute tearjerker of a book, Things I'll Never Say. I also had, I think I've done like a TikTok, which is also on Instagram, and I might have posted it here. I think it might have been too long though. But I have a TikTok and I have like in my actual stream here that I posted this really heartfelt, just emotional, distraught description of how this book made me feel. But going into it, this beautiful raw coming of age story follows bi-fat surfer girl Casey, who turns to journaling to navigate what it means to crush on your two best friends at the same time. 10 years ago, the Scar Squad promised each other nothing would tear them apart. They stuck together through thick and thin, late night serving sessions, and after-school spodies. Even when Casey Jones Caruso lost her twin brother Sammy to an overdose and their foursome became a threesome, the squad picked each other up. But when Casey's feelings for the remaining members, Francesca and Benjamin, develop into romantic attraction, she worries the truth will dissolve them. Casey tries to ignore her heart until Ben kisses her at a summer party and Francesca kisses another girl. Now Casey must confront all the complicated feelings she's buried for her friends and for the brother she's totally pissed at for dying. Since Sammy's death, Casey has spilled all the things she can no longer say into journals, and now more than ever, she wishes he were here to help her decide whether she should guard her heart or bet it all on love before someone else decides for her. Oh my god, this book, another book, left me an emotional wreck. It's great. This book, I think, there is the romance aspect of it, but that felt more like a vehicle for themes of grief and for moving on. It, like, the romance existed to be the thing where she is really coming to terms with and really realizing, hey, you were supposed to be here to help me with this type of stuff. How am I supposed to figure this stuff out? How am I supposed to, like, move on and, like, move to these other major events in my life without you now? And I think that the way the story navigates grief and moving on in both just the immediate of Casey now having crush on her best friends, but also her grandfather dies, and so she is reconfronted with grief in that moment, and that helps to, like, the way it's navigated and the way specifically it is shown how she is mentally having been, because this takes place a year after the death of her brother, and how I think it was really well done to show also how this story kind of does depend on that distance, but by reintroducing her to grief, you do see some of the more vicious, more over flooding kind emotions that you would see at it, like the acute point of it. And this book was absolutely fantastic. Again, in shambles, destroyed, a mess. 10 out of 10. Cannot wait to see what else this author comes out with. And the last novel, this one was more of a novella, is The Chase Begins. This was the first book in a series. A whimsical new adult fantasy set in a queer normative world filled with mysterious bloodlines, chaotic magic, and powerful instruments of divine favor, where a war with the dragons has the theocracy of Ism on the brink of desperation, and a devout follower of the scholar god is horrified to learn that their murderous ex has just escaped prison. Lark will happily throw themselves into danger for the sake of new knowledge or helping another, and now even has a friend determined to get them out of tricky situations alive. Nightingale's escape does not have them fearing for their own life, but for those of everyone else. However, catching Nightingale will be no easy feat, and Lark's heart remains far more complicated than it ought to be. So I didn't do a stream for this book because it was relatively short, and there isn't a ton to say about it. It is the start of what seems like it's going to be a fairly robust series, and absolutely do love the character. My favorite type of character is one that's like kind of a jackass, and Lark fits that perfectly. And of course you do have Nightingale, who is their ex, and she is just a vicious murderer. And she breaks out of prison, and so the catastrophe incoming. So the story is she's broken out of their prison, and now Lark is trying to race against the clock to make their way to make sure she doesn't get out of the barrier that the town is using to try. And usually the barrier is facing to keep dragons out of the town, but they reversed it to try and keep her from escaping. And she escapes. She escapes the town and is free to run amok around the rest of their world. So we're this is the starter, and now we're gonna try and figure out where she is. Got to figure out what she's trying to do, what her goal is. Someone helped her break out of prison, so you gotta figure out who that is. Overall, great story. I did finish it this month, so I might talk about it in the next quarter wrap up. I don't think I'll do a full stream of it because I did beta read the next book, so I probably won't actually talk about it until the book actually comes out. But absolutely, the next book is even better. That book 2 is a Whovian dream. Absolutely obsessed with it. There are new characters, absolutely obsessed with them. But overall, so glad that I found this author, and am so excited because I love long series. I read an ungodly number of books about cats that live in tribes. If you know, you know. But so I'm more than excited to hop into some other long series, especially by indie authors. So that was the novels. Moving on, we've got short stories. And not, these three in the middle, not going to take much time on them. Billionaire for the Night was truly the most disgusting, fetishist fucking book I've ever read in my life. It was terrible. I wish I could scrub that out of my brain. Not even going to rate it. Never reading from those authors again. Also never really reading from this author again. Maker Cream was also extremely fetishist. Wasn't as disgusting as Billionaire for the Night, but was not good. Could never recommend it. That's what my 1 star is. So 1 star. Probably will never read from that author again either. Bookworm, I just didn't like the writing. I genuinely just didn't like the writing of that book. I have another book. I like already have another book from the author. I think I got both of them for free. So I might read from this author again, but I didn't like the author, or I didn't like the writing. So we'll give it another chance at some point. But it was not the one. On to better stories. By Your Side. This book is, I think all of these are either, except for this beta reading. All of these are either like romance or erotica. This is a romance. It is about, hold on, so you can't see it. It is about these two friends that have been super close for a long time. One of them is Ace. The other one isn't, but they feel like extremely strong feelings for their friend, and it's really a story of after a breakup, this one character realizes that she might just have really strong romantic feelings for one of her friends, and they discuss like getting into a I know this word, oh my god, why is this? Queer platonic relationship. They discuss, it's like discussing getting into a queer platonic relationship. I liked the book. I really liked the writing in like the first chunk of the book. But it did feel like once they started like talking about the romance and the like feelings of attraction to each other and whatnot, it felt more like explaining. It felt almost like an info dump at the end, because you're info dumping their relationship and like the dynamics of their relationship, and then what the actual feelings are, and what they like. It feels more like the author was trying to explain queer platonic relationships than like storytelling. It definitely felt more like an explanation than storytelling. Maybe even like the dialogue wasn't super natural to read, and like especially compared to the rest of the story. And it did also, there were points where it just kind of felt like it kept repeating itself, but again, very much like this, like the writing style at the beginning. So, and like we also, why not, we probably need more books. Not probably, we need more books showing all aspects of love. And so book with queer platonic relationship, we love it. Drinks with Umbrellas was like 10 out of 10. Obsessed with Tuesday Harper now. Love. It was a woman just on a whim goes on a vacation, falls in love out there, and it was so stinking cute. And like that's the difference between Bookworm and Drinks with Umbrellas, is I really just loved everything about the characters. I also loved the way they talked to each other. I didn't like the way they talked to each other in Bookworm. It did not mesh with me, but Drinks with Umbrellas was everything. It was so good, and I want to read so much more from this author. Beta read a book by Tatiana Obe. 10 out of 10. It was not Afro Samurai. That's the thing. It was inspired by Sister Samurai. Very excited to see the final version of that book come out. And then book 3 of the Kingstown series by Sean. Read it. Good time. It was a good time. Like I said, salty that I didn't read any nonfiction because it was there. But again, I need to know how far I am in a book, and that needs to make sense to me. Otherwise, it really just completely halts my ability to comprehend. I don't know why, but it does. And so that shenanigans didn't work well for me. I did have a book called Happiness. Makes sense. It was just extremely like the worst kind of self-helpy like way of talking for me. I thought it would like it was just not the type of mindfulness that I can mesh with. It was the very I don't know how to describe it, but it just was not it's like I feel like when you're thinking of self-help guru, the way they talk, it like that person you think, like the first thing that comes to your mind when you think self-help guru, the way they talk just does not work for me, and this book was just that, and so it didn't work for me, and so we DNF'd it. And now 5-star book draft. So the 5-star book draft is basically books that I anticipated being 5 stars, and I pick out a handful and at the end average to see if I was accurate at like guesstimating whether or not I would like these books. I did horribly last year. We are having a significantly better reading year this year, though. The only rules that I have for it is only the first book in a series, because series I feel like should be judged, like need to be judged differently than like an individual book, you know? So like no books in a series and no rereads, but otherwise it's just for pretty wide options. And then I have Louise Ortega, Healer the Water Monster, and Something More as 3 of my picks, and all of them were 5 stars. A vast majority of the books that like I said earlier, the vast majority of the books that I've had as arcs are books that I also think are going to be 5 stars, so they're all my 5-star book draft. Again, we'll see next week when I do my book tag, my mid-year freak-out book tag. You can see the atrociousness that is all of the books that I marked as being that I kept adding, because I always just keep adding books to my 5-star book draft, so we can see how absurdly long that's going to be. We can also see how many arcs I still have to read. Another really long list. I'm not okay. But I am done. That is everything for this wrap up. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, valedictions, friends.